Vance Boelter, the suspect in the fatal shooting of a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband and wounding another lawmaker and his wife, has now been federally charged with murder. The Justice Department also charged with the 57-year-old with stalking and offenses. He was arrested after a massive manhunt that authorities are calling the largest in the state's history. Police say they captured Boelter in Sibley County, Minnesota, after he was hiding in a rural area in a field. Investigators say they also found a manifesto and a list of 70 potential targets in Boelter's vehicle. And just into our newsroom, prosecutors say the man went to 4 homes, but some weren't there. NBC's Jay Gray has the latest on the investigation.
Well, we continue to see people adding to a memorial here just outside of the Capitol, and really they've been showing up since before the sun rose here, bringing flowers, some with candles, notes, flags. This to honor the victims, Representative Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, who were killed in the attack, and then colleagues wounded, Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. They were hunted down, according to police, by Vance Boelter, the man who was captured last night after more than 40 hours on the run. He was captured in a wooded area not that far from his home, about 50 miles from Minneapolis, where the shootings took place. The first break in the case came when police found a car that they believed he had used after the attacks abandoned along the side of the road there. And then as they were out and investigating that and pulling evidence from that vehicle, they said that they got a tip from a neighbor who said they thought they saw him running through the forest. And that's when they began to assemble a huge team of officers, federal agents. They stalked the suspect through the woods using drones at times, a chopper with infrared locators on board, and they continued to narrow in and finally made their move just after nightfall, arresting the 57-year-old. He was called out of the woods and told to crawl to officers. He did have a weapon at the time of his arrest, but we are told that there was no confrontation between law enforcement and the suspect here. Things moving very quickly on the legal side of this as well. We are told that Boelter will have his first day in court on this case later this afternoon. So a lot of relief, obviously, that he has been captured here, but still a lot of grief for so many in the Twin Cities as they work through what's happened. That's the very latest from here in St. Paul. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News.
And Boelter is expected to be in court today. But as Jay mentioned, in Minnesota, people have been gathering at the state capitol in St. Paul to remember State Representative Hortman and her husband. TMJ4's chief political reporter Charles Benson spoke with neighbors in the Twin Cities about her lasting impact.
What will you miss about her?
I'll definitely miss her ability to reach out across the aisle and to work to achieve common goals across all Minnesotans.
I never knew her personally, but she was an incredible legislator, probably the best legislator in the state.
We were obviously rallying against something that's very scary in our lives, but it feels good to be around people that know that they care just as much as you do about community, and that makes me feel safer.
While investigators believe the shootings were politically motivated, the political response has been unified against this unspeakable tragedy.
The thing that's really disturbing is that political violence is now becoming the norm in the United States. This was a problem that we had attributed to other countries around the world, and now we're visited with that scourge here.
That is Democratic Congresswoman Gwen Moore speaking today about the attack on the Minnesota lawmakers. Moore says there needs to be a longer conversation about political violence and says she will not be frightened by the attacks. Those comments coming during a news conference this morning where the city and county leaders talked about the economic value of Port Milwaukee.